Oof. Oof. What a surprise. Man, the Witcher series is really good. I wasn't expecting that. They did an absolutely fantastical job making this series. It's right at the top. It's one of the best TV shows I have ever seen. So, some of you may know it's based on the books, and there's also very, very beloved games based on the books made by CD Projekt Red. And first thing, I've only played the third game in the series. I've never played the first two. But from the story that we follow in the third game, I kind of do have an idea of what happened, but not really the backstories of the characters. So if those backstories are part of this series or not, I don't know. So I'm only going to be kind of talking about this series in the form that from what I've seen in this series, and not comparing it to what happened in the books or in the games, because really I've never played, so there's no point, or I've never read the books, so there's no point comparing it to that. Simple. Now, as far as the series, they hit all the right spots. First, I'm going to talk about the characters. Henry Cavill killed it, especially his voice. And I was like, did they kind of add a bit of, they adjusted the audio later, or did he practice to kind of talk like that? He has that heavy voice. We all know that. But The Witcher, I was comparing it more to The Witcher that we saw in the game, especially in the third game. As I said, I've only played that one. And that voice in that game and this voice were very, very similar. And I was like, I guess he probably played the most recent one, to study his character. That's what I'm guessing. I didn't watch any of the behind the scenes or any of the interviews or what. The only thing I read about the show is like the practice that he had to, the sword fighting and all. He had to practice a lot and all. So I read about that, but I did not go into detail. I wanted to be surprised. I was waiting for the show for a long time. I know a lot of us were waiting for about it. So I just wanted to be surprised, and he killed it. That brooding, non-comical, just kind of doing his own thing. He's a Witcher. He takes contracts. So he has to have that middle ground. He doesn't want to choose a side. He played that character perfectly. And obviously, throughout this, as the series went on, and we learn a lot more about him, and a lot more about the character, like the world around him, and he does change. He starts to build affection, if you want to call it, towards other people. At the start, he's just this one note, doesn't want to do anything. He wants to have this bounty. If he killed the monster, if he got the job done, he wants his money, and that's it. Does not care about anything else. So that arc that he played and the way they showed his character evolve, even though he still has that Witcher elements to him, I think here he did a great job portraying a lot with his eyes and the way he talked, and the way he talked basically at the start of the series versus the way he was at the end, the way he kind of emoted his feelings. I think it showed a lot is a very subtle approach to the character, but it was very well done on his part. Ciri's character, I think that wasn't as built up. Yeah, we see her, we see the trouble she is in, and the obstacles she has to kind of go over, if you want to call it that. Or there's part of her story, obviously, we still have to see. So if you, I'm going to go into spoiler territory. She has this power, and it's never really hinted on what that power really is. Somebody wants her. She's on the run. So that character building for her, I think that they're saving for season 2, and it's understandable the way the show was built, for especially from the viewpoint of her character. It makes sense that they more focused more on Geralt's character and Yennefer's character. Then they gave enough for Ciri to get her character, I guess, started, but more things will come in season 2. So I was actually fine with it. The things that they showed for her, and the obstacles, the story, the plot points, they all worked. And the actress playing her, she actually did a really good job. Actually, what's her name? Let's see. Ciri. Freya Allan. So I'm guessing she's brand new to this, but she did an amazing job playing the character. The best thing about this show was Yennefer, played by another actually kind of new actress. It's Anya Chalotra, if I believe how you want to announce it. Man, that story arc was right in the feels. And I never knew, because I only played the 3rd game in the series, I never knew that her story was that deep. I mean, when they first showed her character on a farm and her family doesn't like her, she's a humpback, and she has this disability, and she's not the Yennefer we know. And I was like, wait, so did they change the character? Because I don't know the history. And so for me, it was a big surprise. And from where she was and the Yennefer we know and what she becomes, and in the lust of power, and she wants power, but she basically has to give up to gain that power, to gain that beauty, to gain that power. She basically has to give up ever having a child. So that journey of hers, and then after gaining that power, after gaining that beauty, she's on a quest then to try to find a way to actually have a baby. All of that was surprising. It was stark at times. It was disturbing at times. It hit the right notes. All the elements, and it surprised me the most. Because with Geralt, I was expecting him to be a certain way and to follow the characters that we know from the games, and he played that character. So even though I think he did a great job at doing that, but it was not like really surprising. He had the physique, the acting was there, the dialogue was done really well, and all of that. So with him, I was not really surprised. I was happy that he did a great job at it. But Yennefer's character I was surprised the most. I was not expecting that. And there's a scene where there's a transformation scene of hers, and they show how her body changes and what she has to give up. Oh my God. It was like, watching that scene was disturbing. Just her screams and the images that she showed, the sound and all was very well done. Now, also, if you've obviously, again, I'm going to say these are all spoilers. I'm going to spoil the territory. So, this show has a time jump thing. So, for the first, I believe, 3 or 4 episodes, you see Yennefer's story, you see her side, you see Geralt's story, and then you see Ciri's. Now, all this time, you're thinking, okay, they're happening, and eventually, from the way it's the scenes and everything is kind of put together, you're thinking, okay, so these 3 characters are there on their path. Even the dialogue is the way it's said and all. You think, okay, at one point they're gonna meet up, and that's where the adventure starts. But then the show kind of gives you this big surprise that Ciri's storyline is actually happening in the present, and Yennefer and Geralt's storyline is all in the past. Now, I've heard some people are like, the time jumps back and forth destroys the show. Here's my thing. I don't think it does. The first time it does surprise you, and it really takes you a few minutes to understand, okay, what is really going on? But once you realize it, then from there on, the show it's clear enough. Like, there's nothing that shows on the screen past or present, but from there on, you clearly know that anytime they're showing Geralt's story and Yennefer's story, that's in the past. Anytime they're showing Ciri, that's present. So they do keep going back and forth, but you know. So it's not like they're mixing it up and you don't know what present and what past anymore. It's clear the way everything is portrayed, the way the scenes are put together. So I actually loved that. I loved it. It actually kept it intriguing, and it helped get this show away from a certain formula that a lot of TV shows use these days, and that is Monster of the Week. So, for some who basically just watch TV shows, they don't really care about that. What this is, the idea is that usually the first couple of episodes of a season, it's the story, and then you get into this usual, every episode, every week or so, it's going to be a new bad guy they have to catch, or a new monster somebody has to kill, and da-da-da. Fringe did it. I'm watching Blacklist lately, and that has the same formula. And then in the middle of a season, you see, certain kind of continuation from the actual story, and then it goes back to this Monster of the Week. Thing in this is, first, what helped get this show away from that formula was the time jump. And second, they integrated the Monster of the Week, that obviously Geralt, he takes up contracts, he kills monsters. They integrated those, what you call in the game world, what you will call them maybe side missions, and it puts them in the story. It makes it part of the story, so you never feel like, oh, this episode we gotta kill this monster, this episode we gotta kill this monster. You never feel that, because it's part of the story. If they're going on an adventure, if there's something happening, or he has to kill a monster, or every few episodes he has that, but they integrated it really well with the story itself. So that I was relieved that it did not follow that sort of same formula, and I appreciate this show even more because of that. Now, we'll basically jump right to the ending. They do end up meeting at the end, and you kind of, the ending is on a cliffhanger. It literally is it's this battle happening, and you think, okay, we're gonna get some kind of conclusion on Yennefer's part. So basically, towards the end, I know I skipped a lot, I'll go back to it, but towards the end, there's Nilfgaard basically is kind of taking control of the north, and they attack this fortress, just to put it easy, and Yennefer and some of the mages, they are defending it. So Yennefer, she finally realizes like she has the power, she can do this, and they're getting their asses kicked, and she flames the damn army down. Literally, just go stand up on a rock like Lion King and just burns the damn army like blah, and everybody's gone. And then she just vanishes. Now, while that is happening, they also show Ciri and Geralt's character. They find their way and they meet up. So now going back, so throughout the show, basically they showed that Ciri, when Nilfgaard attacked Cintra, the queen, the king, basically everybody Ciri knew, they all end up dying, and they tell her to run away and find Geralt. That's her destiny. And eventually, when we're seeing Geralt and Yennefer's story, from the past to the present, basically what happened was that this element that I'm about to talk, it's called the element of surprise. I actually had to go online and try to understand what it meant. So it's, in basic terms, it's really hard to explain. In basic terms, it's that if something happens, a person can get attached to a certain person, and that becomes their destiny. This is from what I understand. I will have to look into more of that and try to really understand what this all means. And that's one of the negatives of the show, that maybe because of the 8 episodic structure of the show, a lot of times the world building is missing. It really puts you in the show, and you kind of miss some of the important things, like this element of the surprise. There's the episodes that's really dedicated to this plot point, and when they're talking about it, these characters are kind of going back and forth, and you're just sitting there like, what? Really? I don't know. Please explain, you know? I was like, okay, keep going. Tell me more. And then they never really end up explaining the way you would want it explained to you. So that was one of the things. I think one common thing throughout was it really puts you into this world, and I can understand some people really not liking that aspect of the show, that it's right there and you end up not understanding most of it because of that. And I think that's given because of the 8 episodic nature, as I said. And if I can easily probably add that they could easily had added one more episode to it, just one more, where they're kind of not the main characters, but they're showing the side characters, and either by exposition or probably maybe just the narrator talking of what's going on in the world, at least it would have set us up for the story that's about to come. So that part, I think, was a negative. It does not take away a lot from the show. I still enjoyed it. I still recommend watching it. But yeah, it does leave a bit of a sour mouth, a bit. Another thing, I think it did really well. It is obviously I don't think if it's an adult only show on Netflix. I don't know. I never really realized checking the rating on it, but it is a mature rated show. They utilized nudity in a really good way. It's never overexposed, at least in my opinion. You see, the one show that I can think of and actually couple. There's Spartacus, there's Rome, Game of Thrones. A lot of these shows, nudity was just in your face. You know, it was always out there. Here, they've only used it couple of times. You can say not couple of times in the sense that there's one scene where there's magic happening and Yennefer's doing this illusion filled magic, and there's a room and everything is happening, and she's trying to kind of persuade Geralt. This is like their first meeting, and the other times are basically used on her. And if you remember, that kind of is her character from the games. But other than that, like, I don't remember it was ever used. And what I'm trying to say, that it's done really well. And even in the scenes that they've used it, it's not taking away anything from the story. It really is filled in the story. There's no unnecessary nudity. Just because the show is mature, I'm really glad they didn't feel like they had to just be in your face kind of thing. But the violence is there, the gore is there, the monsters are there. Now, even though I'm saying the monsters are all there, and there's actually a scene with this bug-like creature, like a overgrown mantis, if you want to call it, spidery creature. It is heartbreaking. That whole scene, it involves, if you can't hear it, close your ears or so. It involves a baby's mom and Yennefer, and they're on the run, and this freakish monster. It's like the first time they shot I was shocked. And it's a heartbreaking scene. It's nerve-wracking. The suspense just keeps building up. And I'm telling you, there are scenes that in this show that some probably will say they're just overdone. I think they're done right. They're not done to the point that they say that it's just exposition and it's just throwing gore in your face. It never felt like that. When there was gore and when there was violence, it was done in a very controlled and what the plot needed at the time. So that was done very well. So yeah, overall, I think this is one of the best shows. Even the episodes, the starting few episodes when they're kind of introducing the characters, it's a slow, some are saying it's a slower start, but no, that's what, for me, that's what made this show great, because by the time we have a whole episode dedicated to Yennefer, we had an episode dedicated to what Geralt's character is, then we literally have an episode dedicated to Ciri and what she's going through. It made these characters that much more interesting, and that is why I just felt I was more invested in, because they actually gave these characters each their episodes, and throughout the series you know where you know what these characters are, you really feel them, and you know where they're coming from. So yeah, I don't have a lot of negatives. I mean, maybe the time jump, you can say it was a negative, but in my opinion it worked really well. The real big negative that I have, and I think that's the only negative I can think of, I might have to watch the show again to see if I can find more things, but really the big thing was the world. They really do put you in there, and it can leave some people off guard, and some people just won't understand what the hell is going on, because there are a lot of things that it would have been better if they went into more detail, how this world works and what are the different rules that apply to all. So that was my only thing. So with that, I give this show a 9.5 out of 10. It is almost perfect. It's an amazing show. If you don't have Netflix, or if you quit Netflix and this is the show that you think, okay, you're deciding whether to watch it or not, I'm telling you, it's worth getting it. Get it for a month if you want, but definitely do not miss this show. It's an amazing show. I cannot wait for season 2 and where the story goes. So with that, guys, that's my spoiler-filled review. I hope it's my first one, actually, first spoiler review. So hopefully I did the good job. Obviously, there are always points missed, and let me know in the comments. We can discuss there. Go at it. Give this video a like, dislike, comment, subscribe. Yeah, support it any way you can, and always let me know how I did. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all later. Ta-ta.